Started. Good morning. So we'll come to our mats today. You would probably want you'll want a bolster for this class. So this is what it looks like. It's like a big pillow. You could just grab a pillow if you have one this size, or use you could take folded towels or 2 folded blankets and stack those. That's about the same size. But if you have a bolster, have it nearby. And let's start today seated on the bolster. So you'll just bring it underneath you. You'll come to seated on the bolster, but sit more toward the front edge of the bolster. So you could sit in the middle of the bolster, and that's kind of nice that the chest is lifted, but come forward almost like you're going to fall off of the bolster, and just come to an easy cross-legged seat. This is whatever makes sense for you. It doesn't have to be perfect. So let's bring the palms of the hands to the knees, top of the thighs, sit up tall, close the eyes, and start to take a deep breath in through the nose. Back out through the mouth, slowly sigh it out. 2 more cleansing breaths like that one. Deep breath in, sitting up taller on the inhale, chest is open. Exhale back out through the mouth. Last one like that. Deep breath in. Softly out of the mouth. Little different this time. Deep breath in through the nose. Slow and controlled back out through the nose. Keep going with this one. In and out through the nose, moving the breath up and down the back of the throat. Noticing all the shifts and changes that are already happening, even though you're not moving, you're just bringing your focus and attention to the breath and any sensations that come along with it. Also being aware that you can do this whenever you want, whenever you need it. It's a nice way to reset at any point in your day. So keep the chest lifted, shoulders broad across the back. Start to bring the head down. Just let it hang, go slow. Chin comes down toward the chest, but try not to let the chest collapse because we want to get into the back of the neck. So if you keep the chest open, shoulders in place, you'll feel a nice opening in the back side of the neck. Eyes can stay closed if you're comfortable with that. Nothing else changes with the breath. You're still doing in and out through the nose, up and down the back of the throat. Making sure you can hear the sound of your own breath. Listening to that sound is a sense we want to engage. Feeling the weight of the hands on the knees or the legs. Warmth of the palms going down into the legs. See if the head wants to come down any further without lowering the chest, keeping it lifted. And let's bring the right ear over toward the right shoulder. So that left shoulder is still moving away from the ear. And your right ear isn't going to touch the right shoulder. You're just bringing it in that direction so you get the length on the opposite side of the neck. Eyes can stay closed if you're comfortable with that. Chest is still open, shoulders down the back. Both shoulders away from the ears, even though the right ear is getting closer. Seeing what kind of length you can bring on the left side of the neck, giving it some time, breathing into it. And you'll slowly bring the chin back down toward the chest and stay there. See if you can feel a difference in the right side of the neck versus the left. And left ear comes over toward the left shoulder, slowly finding your way there. So, not going too fast, trying to get back into the same spot you were on the other side, a similar sensation. Shoulders away from the ears, eyes closed. And if you're more comfortable keeping the eyes open, just looking down at one spot, trying not to move the eyes. And the chin will come back down toward the chest. You'll stay there, feeling the back side of the neck, the sides of the neck. Maybe they're feeling even. Maybe one side feels a little bit more open. And you'll slowly go side to side. So right ear comes over toward the right shoulder. Get that length on the opposite side of the neck. And chin starts to come back down toward the chest. Left ear comes over toward the left shoulder. You'll go back and forth at your own pace, still staying with that same breath that we started with. And if there's one spot where you feel like you just need to stay there and breathe and work something out with the breath, there's a crick in the neck somewhere, you're welcome to do that too. I'm always amazed at how relaxing just focusing on the neck can be. And next time the right ear ends up over at the right shoulder, just stay there, doing the same thing we did before. Shoulders away from the ears, getting that length and the opposite side of the neck. You'll take the left hand really lightly and just rest it on top of the head as light as you can. You'll feel right away you don't need much at all. Stay here and breathe. Try not to let that right shoulder crawl up toward the ear. And bring that hand back down to the knee, thigh, wherever it was. Chin slowly starts to make its way back down toward the chest. Stop there. Just feel the difference. And slowly come over to the other side. Left ear, left shoulder. Find that spot where you feel like you're maximizing the length on the opposite side of the neck, keeping the shoulders away from the ears. And then maybe you take that left hand, rest it up on top of the head as light as you can. And the right hand comes back down, or sorry, left hand comes back down to the leg. Bring the chin back down toward the chest. Keep the chest lifted, shoulders in place. And you'll slowly start to bring the head back up. So you're just coming back to your regular seat, looking forward. And then here you'll take the 8 fingertips. I can't count anymore because I'm too relaxed. And you'll bring them to the chest. So just below the neck, right about where the collarbones are. And then you'll start to pull down on that skin as you reach the chin forward and up. And you're going for an underbite. So stick the chin out as you pull the skin down at the same time. It's going to feel a little bit weird, but it'll feel incredible once we're done. So stick the chin out like Marlon Brando. And breathe here. Still keeping the length in the back side of the neck. So we're not trying to crank the back of the skull toward the upper back. And slowly start to release. You'll bring the gaze back forward, bring the hands down to the legs. And now you'll feel all that space and freedom in the front side of the neck too. Okay, so let's switch the crossing of the legs. You'll just lean back, bring the other shin in front. And you'll bring the hands to the knees again. And here we'll take some Sufi rolls. So you'll come forward on the inhale toward the left knee, then the right knee. And on the exhale, round the spine, hang on to both knees. And you'll keep going in this direction. So you inhale forward, left to right, and exhale back round the spine. You might start out slow. Eyes can be open or closed. If they're open, you're looking down. Trying not to move the eyes around too much. If you're comfortable with them closed, then keep them closed. Following your breath as a guide for when you should come forward and when you should come back. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. Movement is slow because the breath is long. And next time you come forward and you end up with the chest over the right knee, stay there, just pause, and you'll switch the direction. On the inhale, come back over to the left and then take it back. And now as you switch directions with your circle, you'll keep going in this way. You'll maybe start out a little slower, a little smaller with the circles until your spine gets used to it. And then maybe the circles get a little bigger, but try not to go faster. I just noticed I was picking up speed. Follow your own breath. Those of us that like to move, it can be challenging once you do start moving to not go faster. Or if you have more of a Vata personality, you know, it's an Ayurvedic thing. And one more circle all the way around. Take your time with it. And you'll come back to seated, sitting up tall. So let's bring the right hand out to the right. Left arm reaches up and over. And now we're getting into the side body. So try to keep both hips down on the bolster if you're using one as you reach up and over. And this bottom arm, it can be straight, it can be bent. It's up to you, whatever one feels more comfortable and gives you more length. And then slowly come back up to center. Bring this left hand just down so it's resting on the legs wherever it naturally lands. Open the chest to the right. So you're still sitting up tall. You're not going in your deepest opening, just maybe 3/4 of the way. Sitting up as tall as you can. Chest is lifted, belly's hugging in. You could, if you want to, and you feel like it's not going too deep into the twist, you could take this left hand and bring it forward. So it just rests on the thigh. You're not using it to jam yourself into the twist more. You're using it to sit up a little taller. And if you're comfortable on the bolster underneath you, you could take this right arm and bring it behind the back, coming into a half bind. So now you're getting into the right side chest and shoulder area as you sit up tall in a gentle twist. So careful not to go too far into it with the way that the arms are. It's easy to press into the backs of both hands and see how far you can go, but we're staying here for a little bit, so you don't want to go too deep. Maybe you look down, maybe the eyes are closed. Staying away from looking in the direction you're twisting in, which typically we do that, but that'll take you further into the twist. So just see where the chest naturally wants to go. Keep the gaze with the chest, or maybe you look down. And if you have the right arm behind the back, just gently release it. You can bring the fingertips back down to the floor behind you, sitting up tall, seeing what that feels like. Feeling the right side chest and shoulder start to unwind a bit, even though you're staying right where you are. And you'll start to unwind the chest, turn to face forward, feeling those sensations in the shoulders that are going to be different. And you'll start to come over to the other side. So left arm comes out to the side, right arm reaches up and over, finding that side body opening, deciding if you want the bottom arm bent or straight as you reach up and over. But both hips are down, so try not to take that opposite hip over with you. It wants to go. You have to press it down toward the bolster or the mat underneath you. Chest is still opening up forward. And start to come back up to center. Take your time getting there. This right hand just rests on the legs in front of you, wherever it naturally lands. Left hand comes back behind you. Gentle twist going in the opposite direction. So just go 3/4 of the way in. Those fingertips are back behind you to help you sit up a little bit taller. Close the eyes or look down. And we're staying here for a little bit just to get the body adjusted, give it some time before we choose to take it further. If you like, you can take that left arm behind the back to an easy place. So focus on the left side chest, shoulder. You're looking for an opening there. And if it becomes too much at any point, the intensity starts to build, your heart rate starts to pick up, you start to lose that calming sensation. That is definitely your cue to bring the left hand back down behind you, coming up onto the fingertips, sitting up as tall as you can. And if you have that left arm behind the back, gently release it. Just bring the fingertips back down toward the ground behind you, sitting up tall, feeling the left side chest and shoulders start to unwind. You'll start to bring the chest back forward, coming back to seated. If you're half off the bolster, take some time to adjust. You'll just come back onto it with the hips, and then you'll bring the legs out so the feet are still down on the mat, but knees and feet are wide. So you want the knees and the toes to go in the same direction. It's not as wide as you can possibly go. You could just stay here with the hands back behind you and sit up tall. This might be enough. Some of you might be comfortable bringing the hands in front of you, and this starts to put more weight onto the hip opening. So if it's too much, go back. Maybe you start to walk the hands forward, let the head and the neck go, closing the eyes, keeping those knees opening up so you stay in the hips. We've been opening up the hips by just sitting with that easy cross-legged C, if that's where you were before. But this is a different hip opening. It's a little deeper than that last one since we didn't fold forward. Close the eyes. And let the head hang if you're going forward. We worked on the neck before, so it should be easier to let the neck release, even though it typically wants to just work hard to hold the head wherever you want it to be. But our heads are heavy, so if we let them hang, the neck gets a nice stretch. And you'll start to make your way back up. Use the hands to get there, lifting the chest. Bring the hands back behind you. And let's take some windshield wipers. You're already set up. All you have to do is recline, and then you can move the knees side to side, going in the same direction. And if you're up on the bolster, you might want to send the knees down toward the mat a little bit more. See how the hips are feeling. And you'll eventually make your way right back to where we were. So feet wide on the mat, come back up to seated. So hands can just stay out wide, and then you'll extend the legs wide. So not as wide as you can possibly go, maybe 3/4 of the way. And it might look totally different than mine, but make sure you're still up on the bolster if you have one. This is a nice way to take any rounding out of the lower back. So open up the chest toward the right leg, sitting up tall. And it's up to you how far forward you fold. So you can start to walk the hands forward, folding over the right leg. If you have blocks, you can put blocks underneath the hands. You could even put blocks underneath the arms, the forearms, like an armrest. That can feel good too. Anything to make this more relaxing so that you can stay in the shape without thinking about it, just being here. Once you set yourself up, you can let the body go. And remember, you can always round the spine and yin. Let the head and the neck go. So it's coming down. It's almost like the head's coming down toward the knee. And if you don't have blocks, no big deal. Hands are down on the ground, reaching forward maybe, but keep them soft. There's a bend in the elbows for all of us. This is a great pose for not only getting into the hips, but the back sides of the legs too. Back of the knee. And let's start to make our way back up. Take your time. Use the hands to get the chest and the head back up. And you'll come back to center, just closing the eyes, feeling the sensations here. Hands can rest on the legs. Maybe feeling a pull going to the right from leaning over that leg for so long. Also, why we did some of that side body opening to help you fold over that right leg and be there comfortably for a longer period of time. So if the eyes are closed, blink them open just so you can transition to the other side. Start to open up the chest toward the left leg. If you have blocks, great. If you don't, just bring the hands down to the mat. You'll start to fold forward slowly over this left leg, starting to find your way in, which could be in a different place to start. You felt it on the first side. You'll naturally start to fall into the pose deeper without any effort or force. So just get yourself going in that direction and then see where you end up once we're complete with the hold. And it's time to bring yourself back up to seated. Use the hands, slowly press the head and the chest up. Turn to face forward, close the eyes, just resting the hands on the legs, feeling the sensation. Then the back, the spine, the whole body, maybe even the backside of that left leg. And you'll blink the eyes open, grab onto the backs of the thighs to bring the soles of the feet to the mat. If you have any props, set those off to the side so they're not in the way. Bring the hands back behind you, windshield wipers, knees go side to side with the feet wide. The next pose, all you'll need is a bolster. If you don't have one, you don't need it, so don't worry. But you'll come back to seated and then come to hands and knees. So once you come to hands and knees, the bolster will go in front of you the wide way. Make sure there's plenty of room in front of the bolster for the mat if you're using one. You'll bring the forearms down to the mat and start to walk the legs back, almost like plank pose, but you'll set the hips down right away. So my elbows are all the way up against the bolster and tops of the feet are down. It's Sphinx pose. Chest is reaching forward, tailbone pointing back toward the heels. So your pubic bone is down on the mat, but the belly is lifting away from the mat. If you're on a bolster, it's a lot easier for that to happen. If you're not on a bolster, you do need to put a little effort there. Chest is reaching forward, chest is opening, and you can either close the eyes or look down the bridge of the nose and just come to your breath. So this is our back bend for today. Might be nice to just get the legs going in a different direction too. So think about that length in the front side of the hips. And the back should feel warm already. Back of the neck is easier to get a little bit more length because of the work we started with. And we can add some movement here for the neck. So same thing we did before, bring the chin down toward the chest without collapsing the chest. And then you can bring the left ear over toward the left shoulder, chin back down toward the chest. Try not to let the chest collapse. Right ear, right shoulder. And you can come back into that half moon shape, going side to side with your breath. Lengthen the rest of the body, chest reaching forward. Finish going side to side. Chin will come back down toward the chest when you're done. Shoulders away from the ears. And then lift the head just enough so you keep that length in the back side of the neck. If you just gently open up the eyes, you're still looking down, and then you can close them. Nearing the end of Sphinx pose. If you like a deeper back bend, you could turn the hands, point them out so they're a little bit wide, press into the hands, and you could lift the elbows away from the mat, still bringing the chest forward, legs back behind you. This is seal pose. And that little bit of support you have with the bolster underneath you, if you're using it, can feel really nice with this shape. You can still do it without a bolster too. And if it's too much, the elbows and the forearms come back down to the mat. And slowly start to lower the elbows and the forearms down to the mat. If you're in seal, bring the hands forward so they're right in front of the elbows. And then hands come down to the mat so you can come back up to hands and knees, just enough to take the bolster and move it off to the side. So you'll come down onto your back, lying down on your back, soles of the feet on the mat so the legs are bent. And here we'll scoot the hips over to the left and bring the knees to the right. You can take this bolster and slide it between the knees and the feet just to give yourself some extra padding. It also brings space to the lower back. This can feel really good. Another option, you could put the bolster underneath that bottom leg and then just the knees can rest on the bolster, or you could bring the feet up on there too. So see which one feels better for you. I'm going bolster between the knees and feet. Left arm reaches back behind you and you're coming into a reclined twist. So close the eyes, keeping the shoulders down on the mat if your body's okay with it. Right hand can just rest on the body somewhere, wherever it's naturally comfortable. And let's start to come back to center with the head first. Can take the bolster if you're using it, move it out from between the knees, set it off to the side, find center on your back, and then bring the knees in toward the chest. You can just hug them in. Hang on to each knee with each hand, keeping the knees and the feet together. Take some circles with the knees, just moving the knees around. You'll feel the hips move around on the mat. This is such a nice counter for a longer reclined twist. Switch the direction of the circles going the other way. A little bit of movement before we transition over to the other side. Set the feet back down to the mat. If you're using the bolster, bring it over onto your left side or the other side. Scoot the hips over to the right. Knees come over to the left. Take that bolster. Use it the same way you did on the first side if that's available. Right arm can reach outside the shoulder if that's comfortable for the right arm. So you know you have other arm or other options. Right arm can reach up overhead. Sometimes that's more comfortable in some bodies. And if there's an issue with that right shoulder and it's not wanting to reach out to the side, just arm down by the side is softest, most gentle version. But if the shoulder's okay with it, then just hand in line with that right shoulder. Close the eyes or look down. You'll start to make your way onto your back again. Set the bolster off to the side. Bring the feet to the mat, finding center on your back. Knees come in toward the chest. Knees and feet stay together. Hang on to those knees. Try to see if you can start the circles in the opposite direction. So not the way you typically go, but starting the other way. And switch the direction, go the other way. And you'll set the feet back down onto the mat. Roll over to your right side. Use that left hand to bring yourself up to seated. And you can turn to face forward on your mat if you want to. It doesn't really matter, especially if you're practicing on your own. You'll take the bolster, if you have one, bring it on top of the legs out in front of you. And you can bring this bolster all the way in against the abdomen. All we're doing is a forward fold. So you can start to fold down, keep the bolster up against the stomach as you fold down over the legs, over the bolster, round the spine, let the head and the neck go. I like bringing the backs of the hands to the mat and the palms up. It keeps you from reaching for anything and just keeps the whole shape way more relaxing. Close the eyes and let the head hang. So neck isn't working, it's released. And with the neck released, it might help you open up the back even more. And start to lift the head. You can bring the hands to the bolster if it's there to help lift the chest. Close the eyes. Just stay seated, relax. You can round the spine even here. Starting to come into Shavasana. So you'll blink open the eyes. You'll take the bolster, you'll put it the wide way, underneath the knees. Feet are still on the mat, and you may need to scoot forward to make sure that when you lie down, you're still on the mat. And then here, we'll add a hip opening to our Shavasana. So you'll bring the soles of the feet together, knees wide. Feet are on the mat in front of the bolster. So just check that out. Make sure that's happening. Knees are supported with the bolster. And you'll keep this shape with the legs. Come on down onto your back. Arms down by the sides. If you have something to cover the eyes, great. Close the eyes either way. Start to let go of the breath control. And you'll feel the hip open here. It's soft. I'll give you one more option if you want to go a little deeper in the hip opening. Same thing. All you do is bring the feet up onto the bolster. So soles of the feet together, knees wide, but the feet are up on the bolster. If that's too much, you just bring the feet forward and they're back down on the mat. So see which one's better. You know you're here for a little bit. Make sure you're not thinking about it too much. And if it does become intense at any point, just bring the feet forward, back down to the mat. If you have the feet up on the bolster, just bring them forward, same shape, just outer edges of the feet are on the mat in front of the bolster. If you're already there, stay there. And then we'll all start to extend the legs forward. So just straighten the legs, feet can go a little wider, bolster still underneath the knees, and more of a traditional Shavasana shape. So just stay here to finish the rest of your Shavasana. And you'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Stretch the arms overhead. Get long on your mat in your body. Start to walk the feet in, bending the knees, and you'll roll over to one side, maybe the right side if that's comfortable, bending the knees, cradling the head and the arm, just lying on your side in the fetal position for a moment. Using that left hand, if you're on your right side, press yourself up to an easy cross-legged seat. Your bolster's there. If you want to sit back up onto it, you can just grab it, bring the hips up onto the bolster, find whatever an easy seat for you is on your mat. sitting up tall with the eyes closed, back into this shape that we started in, hands resting down on the knees, noticing how you feel back in this shape at the end of your practice, being abundantly clear as to why you even came onto your mat today for this feeling. Bring the hands together in front of you. Keep that lift of the chest. Start to bring a slight bow of the head. Take a moment to honor and acknowledge your heart and your spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up. Blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing your practice, allowing me to guide you through your practice. I hope it was a good one. I'll see you next time.